Hi, today we are talking about the impact of an abusive relationship. Last week we talked about indicators, are you in an abusive relationship? And today we just want to talk about the impact of that, which is huge. It's monumental because it tears down your self-esteem. First and foremost, guys, your whole sense of self is on the chopping block, your sense of self-worth. And when that starts to go, what do you start to do? You start to doubt yourself. And so when you're in an abusive relationship, there is this ever-present, am I making the right decision? You start to doubt everything because the person that you've been in the relationship with, the abuser, is trying to make sure that you feel certain about nothing. There is nothing that you feel certain about. And even when you're starting to question some of the things that are happening in the relationship, sometimes the impact of the abuse undermines your self-esteem so much that you are constantly in a state of self-doubt, which leads also to feelings of being in a codependent relationship where you realize that your life just systematically becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. You don't have as many friends. That work, you may have the same job, but work may not even be the same because you're in constant turmoil, so you can't give your job all that you need it to be. And also that people, you know what, you just don't talk to people anymore, or suddenly you've shut down your social media pages. All of these things lead to a smaller and smaller life. And so you become more and more dependent upon your partner. And not only that, you're dependent in a way where their life becomes the thing that you're focused on, making them happy, making sure they're not feeling jealous, making sure that you're meeting their expectations, however unreasonable they are. So low self-esteem leads to self-doubt, codependence, as well as, and codependence means that your life becomes smaller and their life becomes bigger. These are big, this is some of the devastation that happens when you're in an abusive relationship. Another thing that happens is suddenly you're starting to feel anxious and worried. Oh my gosh, I gotta get home. I've got to make sure that he's going to be so upset. I got to answer this text right away. That's why you can't keep a job, because you're constantly trying to monitor his or her text messages. Because if you're not on it, oh my gosh, there's going to be hell to pay at home. Oh, I know you were out cheating, etc. So you're in this constant state of worry, heightened state. And this heightened state really is that primitive brain, the amygdala, is firing constantly. It keeps you in a state of fight or flight or freeze. And so people who are in an abusive relationship are just worried. They're just worried. And it's sad because it leads to sleepless nights. It leads to a hypervigilance around what you're doing. And it also can lead to deep, deep sadness, where you're just feeling life just feels hopeless. It doesn't feel good because everything that you've been feeling good about has systematically been torn away from you by the person who's doing the abusing. And lastly, you're fearful. Fearful that there's going to be some retaliation, there's going to be some consequence. And that is, guys, it is that what you want to be in a relationship where you're constantly fearing your partner? Not only physically, but emotionally. That you know that, gosh, when I get home, it's just going to be hell to pay. So let me just go over these just really, really quickly. Impact of an abusive relationship on you is low self-esteem, self-doubt, codependency, anxiety, depression, and fear. I'll tell you, you do not have to stay here, but it's going to take a lot to help you realize that those things, the gaslighting, the undermining your own self-worth and self-esteem is designed to keep you in the relationship. So you're going to have to fight to get out of the relationship. So one of the things you can do is simply leave. And I know that's not always easy. I know that that's hard. So what I want you to think about is first identifying the markers or indicators that you're in an abusive relationship. Identify what your partner is doing. Identify what that abuser is doing to keep you in the relationship. Go back to the previous video and just notice what they're doing. Because once you start to recognize the pattern, then you can start to at least understand what's happening. And believe it or not, guys, that's a first step. And then I want you to think about getting help from a therapist that can help you extricate yourself from this person. You're going to need a plan, and that's going to be super important, but we'll talk about that in the next video. So in addition to getting help, one of the things that I want you to focus on in your therapy is understanding that these feelings of maybe feeling unlovable or unworthy have been the whole strategy of this person, conscious or unconscious, and really identifying those markers. Maybe it was fear of abandonment, fear that no one else would ever love you, fear of not being enough. Or these things could have started in childhood and they just got exacerbated by this relationship. Find a therapist who can really help you hone in on this, because you want to make sure that you don't repeat this pattern, that you understand what's happening. And then you can start working on building up your self-esteem, your self-worth. I'm Chantel Cohen. Tune in for our next video, because we're going to talk about exiting this relationship and having a plan. I'm Chantel Cohen, and I help couples become one again.